Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Next Gen Racing iRacing Legends Cup Season 2. And tonight marks round number 4 of the 12 round series. And we are here today in the Netherlands at the circuit of Circuit Park Zandvoort for what is expected to be a very tricky, tight and twisty race, and it's going to be a major challenge for our drivers up and down the field, both within the Pro category and also the Pro-Am category, with regards to getting the maximum number of points they can over the course of tonight's 3 races. Now, to what has been a difficult opening quarter to the season so far, with last time the racing taking place in the United Kingdom at Snetterton, it was the case at one of the longest circuits. We saw some upsets and some major successes, and will that continue tonight? And will our championship leaders in the respective categories be able to break away, or will the alternative occur? Will it be the case that the field starts to close up once again before we get to that mid-season break point? We've still got a good number of races to go before we get to the mid-season break, but it definitely has been quite a variable season so far, and there's plenty more to come. And in the commentary booth tonight, you're going to have myself. My name's Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And this broadcast is being brought to you over 3 different media platforms tonight. You can watch it on the official YouTube channel for Next Gen Racing. That's Next Gen Racing on YouTube. Alternatively, the official Next Gen Racing Facebook page. Or last but not least, you can also look at it on my own personal Twitch channel. That is TX141 at Twitch. But, having introduced the racing here today and what we can expect, we should now head down to the standings. Now, here are the standings for the Pro category, and after the opening 3 rounds, what we can see is that at the moment in the Pro class, where we've got the 10 drivers ranging from Bennett all the way down to Chadwick, so far Luke Bennett there leading on 203 points after a very successful time at the British Circuit of Snetterton last time out, picking up 2 firsts in races 2 and 3 and a 2nd place in race number 1, and it worked out massively for Bennett, seeing him jump right into that top position and being able to start to pull a little bit of a gap to Gordon Much, who's on 183 points, but you can imagine that Much is going to do everything he can, you can imagine he will do everything he can in order to be able to try and close that gap up and keep the competition flying before we get to that halfway point, because momentum is critical as you get to the halfway point and when you get to that season break, and it's going to be in Gordon's interest to close that gap down, if not regain the lead, even if it's just for 1 round to retake the lead. Will put Bennett on the back foot, and do not count out Mikey Dobble there in P3 on 148 points, looking strong, and a consistent performance at Snetterton with 3 third places back to back. Definitely looking strong in the season so far, consistency being his key at Snetterton. Meanwhile, further down the order, we can see it's quite tight in the battle for P7 there, with Liam McNeely holding on to what is P7 at the moment on 52 points, but we do have Keith Dempsey, Donovan Strauss and William Chadwick all chasing after our P7 man, and Chadwick there joint last place on 36 points, albeit on countback is classified as P10 and last in the Pro Championship as it currently stands, but there, those 36 points, he can gain a lot if he's able to pick up those strong results tonight. Meanwhile, we take a look at our Pro-Am Cup, our Pro-Am class in particular for this Cup, and we can see we do not have a runaway leader per se, but we do have a leader who is being chased rather fervently by a multitude of drivers, and that is Jamie Dorey, currently leading on 121 points, but it was a difficult time last time out for Jamie Dorey, with a very consistent performance, but indeed, I think perhaps thinking that he may have had just a little bit more on the table, but he did really give it his utmost there, and 3 7th places back to back, and he'll be looking to continue that form of consistency tonight at Zandvoort. Meanwhile, we can see William Fold there in P2 on 109 points and definitely in the hunt for the championship lead, but he does have Lee Horn and Wayne Douglas there, only 6 points separating P2 to P4, all 3 drivers there wanting to be the prime suspect in the pursuit of that championship lead. Can Dorey break away? Can he get a bigger gap over these guys tonight, or will they be able to reel him in? That is the big question, of course, but Douglas having a very strong performance in what was the Snetterton races, particularly races 2 and 3, picking up those 2 second place finishes, and you can imagine Douglas would love to do that again tonight. Looking further down there, we can see the lack of starting from Deegan Fairclough in P9 meant he wasn't able to pick up any points at Snetterton, and now is languishing in P9 as it currently stands on 42 points. And Ollie Peters there putting in some good performances, particularly in race number 3, that 5th place. I mean, on 41 points, it's going to be Peters' opportunity to start to move up the ranks in the top 10. But do keep in mind, we do have a grand total of 20 drivers. In fact, we're expanding tonight in the Pro-Am category, and you can see there, as we look from P11 down to P20, it's the case that Matthew Addy, a driver who we know also from the GT3 series, a consistent driver, not able to take part last week in any of the 3 races, and on 34 points as it currently stands, looking to try and get some more points on the board because he does have Max Brady, Josh Brown and Thomas Delaney chasing after him. And Matt Emmons as well, do not count out the Briton there in P15. A difficult time at Snetterton on 18 points, but we do suspect he loves a bounce back. He loves a comeback, does Emmons, and will he be able to do it tonight? That is the big question, of course. And then last but not least, we do have Aaron Thompson in P20, only able to take part in race number 1 last time out and having a point to his name so far. Is he able to gain some more points today and take the fight to Liam Sheen and Steve Thompson? And when you put this all together in the overall standings, you can see there's a good interlacing here where we've got our top 3 pros starting to really clear away from the rest of the field in the overall championship. But we do have Jamie Dorey there leading the charge of the Pro-Ams and getting themselves well into the mix of the pro drivers. And it was the case that the fastest lap last time out in both the second and third race went to Luke Bennett, and the fastest lap and pole position in what was race number 7, if you look at the whole calendar wheels to classify it as round number 7 technically, and pole position going to Gordon Much. And will he be able to pull off a strong result tonight? And we take a look further down the overall standings there, and we can see Ollie Peters there in P18, right in the mix of Donovan Strauss and Keith Dempsey, sandwiching himself between the 2 pro drivers. Can he move a little bit further up in the overall classification? And then last but not least, in our P21 to P30, made up purely of Pro-Am drivers here, and it is the case. It's an opportunity for a number of them to potentially pick up some points here that will get them further up the fight and into that top 20 overall. Now, how about our schedule for tonight? Well, it will be the case that we have 3 races for you as per the standard timing, and it will be at 8 o'clock this evening British Summer Time. That's BST or UTC plus 1. We'll get underway with the 10-minute qualifying session, and that will determine our grid order for race number 1. After that, we'll be getting underway with our first of 3 races, the first of 3 15-minute races, race number 1 at 10 past the hour, and then we will, once that race is concluded, be taking a very brief break, and we'll be bringing you the racing action from race number 2 at 25 to 9 approximately, and then it'll be a similar format, 15 minutes of racing, a small break afterwards, and then we get racing for the final race of the evening in race number 3 at approximately 9 o'clock tonight. Now, as for the track, we mentioned it a moment ago, Circuit Park Zandvoort, and we are looking at the national layout today. So we've cut the circuit in half effectively. We're staying closer to home rather than going off into the far reaches of the full GP circuit. We're going with the national layout here and consisting of 10 corners, a very tricky circuit. One of the key things to know about this circuit, it is very tight. And as the image provided by Sim Racing Wiki shows there, it doesn't tell you the full story of the circuit. It's very tight, but it's also twisty, particularly the run from turns 2 through to turn 6. The early hairpin there of turn 6, a very tricky sequence of corners where overtaking is going to be difficult to achieve, and it's on the second leg of the circuit, on the home leg, that's when the overtaking opportunities really start to open up, particularly from turn 6 down to turn 7, and then you go through the chicane of turn 7 and 8, and you've got overtaking opportunities into turn 9, and also from the run from turn 10 all the way down to turn 1, the very long stretch of straight, and that's where we're going to be seeing plenty of action today, we suspect. Now, as for the rules for the uninitiated, the rules for our drivers are as follows. All of them are required to drive the Legends Ford 1934 Coupe. Now, you're going to see this car very shortly, and you're going to think it looks like some sort of ancient kit car, but I can assure you it's a modernised car, albeit it is from 1934. It is a modernised for modern racing machine, and it is running with a Yamaha 1250cc engine, and whilst it's a case that it's not too powerful of an engine, given the fact that the car is very light, as a result it does have some phenomenal acceleration, and it's also a nice and drifty at the rig, giving our drivers the ability to slide it round the corners. Indeed, when they nail it right, you can imagine the apex speeds our drivers are going to keep will be very strong. In terms of general rules for the races, each driver has 1 fast repair available per race, and each race is a sprint. There are no mandatory pit stops in this series. All 3 races are a sprint from start to finish, and the only time we'll see someone in the pits is if they've had a major accident or they need to retire the car for a given reason. On top of that as well, whilst race 1's starting order, the grid for race 1 is determined by qualifying. In race number 2, there will be a reverse grid for the top 12 based on the finishing positions from race 1. So what that means is that the top 12 positions in race number 2 on the starting grid will be the reverse grid of the top 12 finishing positions in what is race number 1. So if you win race number 1, you start P12 in race number 2, and if you come 12th in race number 1, you end up on pole for race number 2. But if you finished P13 in race number 1, that's where you start for race number 2. And it's in race number 3 where we will see a full reverse grid based on the finishing positions from race number 2. So if you won race number 2, you start right at the back of the field, and conversely, if you finish dead last, you start right at the front in race number 3. That's enough talking about the rules and the setup of the series for the uninitiated. Let's get to our live cameras then and see what is happening at the circuit right now. Well, everybody just getting in their final bit of practice. We do have the best part of approximately 4 minutes to go before we do get racing. You can see the timer there in the top left corner of your screen saying we've got 5 minutes to go. In fact, that is 5 minutes listed there on this practice session, so a little bit inaccurate in our timing there, but we can see so far in the final portion of this practice session, it is Much who's doing the best so far with 121.895, literally improving there as we're spectating, making his way down into turn 1. A very strong driver from what we're hearing. Indeed, the number 48 car there looking very fanciful as he makes his way through turn 1 and now up into 2. And we will bring you an onboard lap very shortly for you, ladies and gentlemen, as we are just watching Gordon make his way around the circuit right now. And as I said earlier, the car doesn't look like much, but I can definitely tell you what, it being a very light car and a rather pokey little Yamaha 1250cc engine in there, it is going to be a car that is going to glide around this circuit. And you can imagine it's literally on air at the end of the day. It's all about the driver being able to maximise their handling through the corners and carry as much speed as possible. Now, it should be pointed out as well, I've just been informed, in fact, by Bobby Thompson. So, Much and Bobby Thompson are starting off a team recently called Barracuda Motorsport, and we have seen what is Much here. And meanwhile, for Thompson, to give you an idea, both of them P1 and P2 at the moment, they have got very similar times right now, albeit Thompson there with the number 19 car. And if you want another way to tell the drivers apart, it is the case that it is for Thompson, he has blue bumpers on the front of the car. Meanwhile, Much has orange bumpers. So, that, as we see there, Thompson getting it a little bit wrong into turn 1, just simply letting the rear end come out a little bit too much. There was a bit of snap oversteer, as we do see we do have one of our legends going for a little spin out of turn number 1. But checking in with some of the drivers going into turn night's racing, it was the case I had a chance to catch up with only one or two of them as they were getting into the cockpits of their respective cars, indeed making their way down the pit lane. But one new driver tonight, we do have here a brand newcomer to the Pro-Am category, the privateer of Guido Casini. Oh goodness me, I'm going to butcher his surname once or twice here, folks. My apologies for this. Casaniga. And we can see here Guido making his way down towards turn number 1. The Italian driver here in the number 89 car. And when I spoke to him, we were saying very excited for tonight. And it is his fresh experience in this series. This is going to be the first race he takes part in, a set of races, and he's really looking forward to it, and we cannot wait to see what he's able to do in the racing tonight as he makes his way there through turn number 3. Another driver I had the chance to catch up with very briefly as well, albeit he was just running down to the car, was Paul Hayho, who at the moment I believe is making his way around the circuit right now. And in fact, here is Mr. Hayho and the number 5 car here as he makes his way in the Pro-Am Cars car down towards what is, we believe, turn number 7 and turn number 8, coming into the chicane there as the camera spins around and confirms we are looking, of course, at the late chicane. And what Hayho was saying to us was that he's still trying to get his head around the Legend as a car and iRacing as an overall simulator, in the fact that he has no experience of iRacing other than Legends Cup so far. And indeed, we wish all of our drivers the best of luck, but particularly to our newcomers, our less experienced drivers, it's always good to see newcomers out there and indeed rookies taking it to the tarmac, and you never know what they are able to achieve. We've all got to be a rookie once, just like we all had to learn to drive at some point. And we can see here Hayho making his way around right now and doing a good job, only a second off the fastest lap in this final practice session, as we do only have approximately 1.5 minutes to go, and it will be the case that everybody will be getting themselves set and ready to charge around. As we see here, Double making his way out to turn 3 and down through 4, 5 and heading up towards the hairpin of 6 right now. And it is the case that for Double in the number 88 car here, got a lot of work to do today on the circuit, but a very fetching livery there, a very classic style livery, particularly with the luminescent green numbers on the side, very distinct as well, as he makes his way out to turn 6 and heads down towards turn number 7. And we will bring you that onboard lap with some of our drivers once we go into that qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen. And I should point out, by the way, that your standard commentator of, I believe it's Alex Everett, wasn't able to commentate for tonight due to personal circumstances, so I'll be standing in for him tonight, but it will be business as usual as of the next round as I'm to understand it. So do bear with me tonight, and hopefully we can match up to the very strong commentating capabilities of Mr. Everett. But we will wait and see how the racing goes very soon, as we've now got less than a minute to go, and indeed I hope you're looking forward to some good racing tonight. And if you are in the chat right now, feel free to say hi, do not be shy. Alternatively, feel free to let me know how you're doing after your opening day of the week. It is of course Monday evening, and also let me know who you are supporting tonight, who your favourite is for picking up the potential wins, or at least pole position in qualifying. As we just check in with race control, And we have not heard anything to say that things are going to be delayed or proceedings are being called to a halt. So as a result, we are expecting to get underway very shortly, folks. And when we do, it will be the case that we go charging for what is the qualifying session. Only a couple of minutes to go, if that, probably less than that to be honest. Perhaps 1 more minute to go once we get the turnover from practice to qualifying, and then it will be, of course, the shootout for pole as practice comes to its end, and now all of our drivers will be a go, go, go. And just checking in, one more note. No, there is nothing else here with regards to information so far, so we are heading into that qualifying session, folks. And here we go. There is the switch over. Qualifying commences 10 minutes, and our drivers will have to do everything they possibly can here in order to get the best possible position on the grid. Now, the question you may be asking at this point, okay, well, what do you want to target in terms of this qualifying? Well, you want to run the car as light as possible, so our drivers will be running out. There is a little fuel in the car, but also on top of that, you want to give yourself some clear space. Now, the thing about Zandvoort is you can pick up a distant tow from a driver, and you want that tow in the run from, say, turn 10 to the start-finish line there to complete the lap, alternatively in the run-up towards turn number 1. But the flip side of the coin is, particularly through turns 3 through to 6, you do not want to be tucked in behind another driver here. As we see, we've got Liam McNeely just staying out of the way for the time being as everybody comes siphoning through. And we've also got Donovan Strauss here making his way through the corners right now as he comes through turn 3 as well. But as we were saying about the whole slipstream quotient and where our drivers want to position themselves, they will want typically clear air unless they can pick up a tow in perhaps the run from turn 6 down to 7. But even then, they will not want to get too close until they get through turn number 9, because the slipstream factor is critical from 9 through 10 up into what is turn 1 or to the start-finish line to complete the lap, because that's where it's all about acceleration and rotating the car through the corner. So expect a lot of drivers to go for clear laps today, as we do see right now. We've got a little pack of cars making their way down through turn number 9 right now, and Kazaninga is right in amongst the mix there. He does, of course, have a couple of drivers around him, one ahead of him and one behind here, so he hasn't quite given himself a lot of open space out on circuit, but as he goes onto a lap, we ride on board with the roll bar. So charging across the timing line then to go on to his first qualifying lap, you can see getting up to the speed here of 180 kilometers now, 183 at the braking zone here, and there's that having that distant tow, and that just gives him a little bit more. But as you can see, going into that braking zone, taking a late apex there to get the rear to rotate around and get on that power as soon as possible, and also to give himself a little bit of distance to the driver in front and use the tow to make up for the time he loses by taking that late apex as he comes through to a very nice smooth line there through turn number 2 and into 3. Goes a little bit too tight to the apex of turn 3 there, and that's going to cost him a small amount of time, probably a tenth of a second there on that tight apex, as he now makes his way through turn number 4, the downhill right-hander, and he'll be coming up into the left-hander of what is turn number 5 very shortly, before the heavy braking zone on the apex of 5 into 6, into the hairpin he goes here. And this is all about being patient and getting the car rotated and watching out for that small road surface change there, in as he made his way over the camber surface change, and as he now comes down towards turn number 7 into the chicane. A very nasty pair of corners here, a very deceptive pair of corners as he clatters the curve of turn 7, but then takes a nice general approach to the curve of turn number 8 and then comes out the corner. This is looking a very nice lap for the newcomer as he comes down towards turn number 9 here, going for a nice light brake here and just drifting the car, and you can see the driver in front of him as well doing a very good job of drifting through. But as he comes through the final corner, completely flat out, completely committed to the loud pedal here, he's going to come up towards that timing line, and we're now going to start to get our opening qualifying laps in, and we're going to see from Kazaniga it is, well, Wayne does set a 1:23.9, but it's the case that Peters a 1:23.0, and from Kazaniga it is a 1:23.872. Not a bad lap for his opening lap, and indeed we can see that Ollie Peters by comparison putting in a strong lap there. We can see all the drivers making their way round right now as the Crest Autosport driver here doing a very good job and setting a provisional pole pace of a 23.0, but we are expecting that time to be pipped later on here as he makes his way through turn number 3, and a rather fetching livery there as we see already McNeely making his way up onto provisional pole at 22.957. And here's the privateer, of course, the pro driver making his way out of turn number 1 and heading down towards 2, moving out the way of other drivers coming through. I think just trying to give himself a bit more space here, and perhaps also trying to tuck in behind a driver who he knows might be approximately 2 to 3 tenths slower overall in the lap, so he can try and gain the slipstream off them towards the end of the lap. And we saw that there with Kazaniga, how it worked out. And I think that's going to be something that our drivers will be targeting quite a bit over the course of their qualifying laps, trying to get into the tow at the right point here, because as I say, the first half of the lap is very twisty, and you don't really want the dirty air of another driver in front of you, but then once you go on to that second half of the lap, it can be beneficial, as we see Much has managed to get a 1:21.0 22.708 there. Indeed, a very fast lap. In fact, that is phenomenal by comparison to the rest of the field, and definitely showing his pro credentials right now with the fact that he's almost a second faster than anybody else down on circuit. Meanwhile, his teammate Bobby Thompson will only set in so far what has been a 1:22.78. So Thompson, the best part of a second off his teammate, almost 1.1 seconds here. And I do think it's the case that the number 19 driver right now just looking for a better opportunity to get a stronger lap in as he makes his way down through turn number 8 and heads up towards 9 here. Now, of course, in terms of qualifying, given we've got 3 races tonight and the points are weighted equally across the 3 races, it's not as though race 1's less valuable than race 2 or race 3. What would be the focal factor here? Well, I think for a lot of drivers, particularly in the Pro class, you want to be on those front 2 rows here, just simply because once you're on those front 2 rows, it's very difficult to overtake in the opening half of the lap. And we saw that in qualifying. We've already talked about that in terms of how difficult it is in qualifying. So if you then mirror that onto the race, the idea is that you want track position at the start and you want that good start. If you can nail both of those, then you're going to be strong, as we see there that Thompson jumping into the pits. And meanwhile, we've got William Chadwick making his way around right now. I love that livery on Chadwick's car, to be honest. Very nice colour livery, and indeed I think that's one that's going to be catching the eyes of many here as the Briton makes his way out the final corner. Is this going to be an improved lap from Chadwick? He's 1.1 seconds down on pole position right now, and he comes across that timing line, and it looks as though he does not, in fact he does improve that, a 22.7, a big improvement, and in fact now only a second off of provisional pole, and that puts him in what is P5 overall, and that's P3 in the Pro class so far. We do have Crawford, however, Blaze Crawford, and also we have got Kenny Brady doing a phenomenal job here, as we do seem to have Crawford. He seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. That's just our cameras being a little bit glitchy there, folks. But the American making his way out to turn 8 right now and doing a very nice job is Crawford in the amateur class, the pro amateur class I should say. The number 4 driver here coming through the right hander and then making his way up towards the final corner here, and the American doing it very nicely indeed as he comes charging through and heads up towards the start finish line here. Will he be able to improve even further? Well, we do see it's McNeely who has got himself up into P2, a 22.628. McNeely the second best. He's the best of the rest right now, much in a very different category by comparison. As we can see here, Crawford making his way through turn 1. We've got a little bit of dust kicking up there off of turn number 1 as well. I think it's just the case that might be a little bit of sand that's been kicked up by a driver up into the air, but nothing major, no dramatics right now. As we look a little bit further down, we've got Lee Horn just making his way out of the pits right now. Lee Horn from Next Gen Racing, of course, a very well loved and respected figure of the Next Gen community as he comes out to turn number 1. And currently he has not set a lap here himself, and also Tom Delaney from SVPMR are the yet to set a lap. 2 drivers yet to set one. We have 22 drivers in attendance so far. We may have some more drivers that join us, of course, later on in the racing tonight, because that's why we also have the 3 races to give everybody the opportunity to turn up if they've run a little bit late. But you can see that we've got Lee Horn making his way round right now, and we will wait to see what he's able to do, as we've also got Josh Brown who's just pulled out of the pits, and I believe it will see just pulled it into the paddock, Josh Brown, and we look forward to seeing him out on circuit very shortly. As we see it right now, William Foyle making his way into what is turn number 9. Once again, the Pro-Am driver here coming through the right-hander, and as he comes into the second of the right-hander sequence, going a little bit wide there of the initial apex of turn 10, but of course it's deceiving where the apex of turn 10 is. It's essentially a late apex there, but you wouldn't think it from when you look at it from an external camera angle, but our drivers know their business. As we see here, Foyle coming across that timeline. Does he improve? The Crest Autosport driver coming across the line does not improve here, but meanwhile we take a look around the circuit right now, and we can see we've got Donovan Strauss here on an outlap as it currently stands. The American driver making his way through the sequence of corners leading up through to turn 3 right now, and indeed just building up to a lap, and we only have 2 minutes of the qualifying session left right now. With 1.5 minutes a lap here, well 1 minute 20, which is really say 1/3 of a minute. It is the case that our drivers are now running out of time in this qualifying session, and it will be one of the situations now where it's do or die in terms of that qualifying time. But of course there's plenty of racing opportunities as well, as we've also got Vicente Salas who's just arrived down in the paddock from what I'm hearing, so we're getting more and more drivers arrive by the minute, and that's fantastic to hear. As we see right now, Strauss making his way through turns 7 and 8. Now, meanwhile, we do have here Bobby Thompson coming to the end of another lap. Now, will he be able to improve here? He's quite a way down. He's almost a second down on his teammate who's got provisional pole as it currently stands. He comes across that timing line, however, and what's it going to be? He crosses the line, and he does not improve enough. And as a result, we can see that Much has decided to pit the car, as has McNeely and also Crawford as well. So our top 3 decided not to go again, but it is the advocacy for Thompson to go one more time. As we can also see here, we've got Hey-Ho making his way around right now, but I don't think he's given himself enough time, the Kart Review UK driver, in order to be able to put in a lap. His list has been on an outlap. As we also see, we've got Donovan Strauss, who we'll see Donovan Strauss making his way around. I say Lundgren making his way into the pits right now. Robert Lundgren from Boosted Motorsport. So he's parked up and called it quits for his qualifying session. As we see Brady coming across the timeline here. That's Kenny Brady. Will he be able to improve as he goes on to one more lap? Or 22.689. It's not an improvement, but we jump on board with Brady as he takes us around out of turn number 1. He's got a bit of traffic, however, and this may cost him a little bit as he comes charging up towards turn number 2 here. And as he makes his way into the right-hander or two, you're going to see turning the car in nicely, and watch, he's going to flick the car into the right-hand side here and then turn it in very nice and tight to the apex here. It's a dip in the road surface effectively, so you want to get on that throttle as soon as possible coming through turn 3. Have the confidence to let the circuit pull you back down towards earth, and as he comes through 4 and 5 here and getting ready to break into the hairpin of 6, you can see doing a very nice job so far is Kenny Brady from High Performance Motorsports, although he is being held up a little bit by the traffic ahead of him, albeit that traffic is also on the lap, so it's not as though it's the case that traffic is displaying blue flags or anything. It is more the case that he's just simply picked the wrong time to go this close to another driver. As he comes through turn 7 and 8 here, looking very composed to be fair, Brady. So whatever he doesn't improve in this one, he's looking strong for the race as the Brown driver, as he now comes charging down towards turn number 9 here. Into the braking zone he goes. Well, in fact, it's just a very nice swish into the corner there, and as he comes down, it's going to be full attack through the final corner here to complete his final qualifying lap. Will he be able to improve? It is the case that Much and McNeely decided to retire from the qualifying session, having taken P1 and P2 respectively. Can Brady respond and improve a bit further and perhaps get onto the front row? He comes across that timing line here, and is it the case he improves? He does not improve, but Chadwick does improve. He improves to a 22.6, and Chadwick with a very good lap there, making sure that he cemented his P5 position by looks of things, although we do have Bobby Thompson right now making his way around through the circuit. The private, well, not the privateer, my apologies, he's on a new team, but we haven't updated that today, so that is a little bit wrong in the bottom left hand corner of your screen. We will fix that before race number 2 for you, ladies and gentlemen. But we see right now that Thompson making his way through turns 9 and through 10. Will he be able to get himself off of the rear end of row number 3, or will it be the case that in fact he finds himself starting quite a way off the front, and as a result he'll have to battle his way through or get a good start here as he makes his way across that timeline? And what will it be for the Briton? He comes across the line here and he does not improve. It is not an improvement. We've got Hey-Ho, who's just coming out of what is the final set of corners, but he's putting the car off to the side of the road here, so he's decided it's not going to improve. So pole position, ladies and gentlemen, does go to Gordon Much in the end there with a phenomenal lap of 21.71, beating McNeely by over 9 tenths of a second. McNeely will be starting in P2, and our fastest driver in the Pro category there was Blaze Crawford with 22.63 as we get ready to go for race number 1. We're just waiting now to go, but there's the qualifying timings, the top 20 on those qualifying timings there. Indeed, we've got multiple more drivers waiting to go racing very soon. Drivers who did not take part in the qualifying session: Josh Brown, and we've also got Lee Horn, Tom Delaney, we've got Josh Pulane, Vicente Salas, and I believe that is everyone accounted for. So now it's time for race number 1, as the grid is going to form up very shortly, folks, and we are just waiting to see everybody parked on that grid. Just have to give us a brief moment as the grid is going to be formed very soon. We're just trying to get our eyes in as we see everybody lining up. And we're just checking with you guys and girls in the chat there. And we have Matt Evans there. Sorry that I couldn't race tonight. Do not own Zandvoort. That's no problem, Matt. It's good to have you tuning in via Facebook. Who are you rooting for tonight? And I hope you're doing well as well, as we see everybody getting ready to go and racing here. And we've got Crawford a line up in P3. But let's take you through that grid then, ladies and gentlemen. We can see the top 12 there, and indeed our first 6 rows. Gordon Much taking pole position. We're 21.708, almost the best part of a second ahead of Liam McNeely there in P2. And then on the second row, it will be Blaze Crawford, and alongside him, Kenny Brady there. Very close between the two of them, only separated in the end by 0.02 of a second. Then, if you're talking about close, we'll look at row number 3. William Chadwick only out-qualifying Bobby Thompson by 1,000th of a second. That's how close it was between the pair of them. And we've got Mikey Dobble and Tom Emerson making the 4th row. And then on the 5th row, we've got Jamie Dorey and Ollie Peters there, the Crest Autosport driver, putting in a solid performance in qualifying to get into the top 10. And Paul Hey-Ho and Max Brady lining up on what is row number 6. But as we look to the front of the order right now, we can see everybody getting ready to go racing. now we await the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for race 1 of round number 4. And you can see Good and Much getting a very good start. But McNeely trying to come back in immediately as Blaze Crawford in P3 right now. Tucks into the slipstream here. And we've got Kay Brady making his way along the inside. But he's not able to find a way through. But we do see Crawford going for an early move. Is he able to pull it off? He's not able to, as all of our drivers make their way charging through turn 1. And now come up towards turn number 2 and 3 in quick succession as they all tuck in nose to tail here. And as they make their way up through the field, we can see that we've got car number 16. They're going very sideways and going flying off the circuit there, and it's a bit of a major incident there, as I believe that's Tom Emson getting it very wrong indeed, as he's got it wrong across turns 2 and 3. As we see the number 41 car as well going for a spin there coming out of turn 3. I'm not sure if there was contact as he makes his way back onto the circuit, but meanwhile back up front as they come through turn number 6, you can see that Much already started to break away, as we do have what is Liam McNeely battling with Crawford here, and as the cameraman would politely spin it round here, we can see it as they make their way down into turn number 7. Crawford versus McNeely, and Crawford going for an early move there, and definitely on a charge right now is Crawford as they come charging through the corner and head down towards turn number 9. But you can see McNeely not giving up, the number 2 driver here, trying to find his way through versus number 4 as they make their way into the right hand of what is turn number 9, and up into 10 they go. But you can see there we've got Thompson going wide out of what is turn at number 9, and as a result, as he rejoins, he loses a lot of momentum and drops down towards P7. So after what is the opening lap, it is Good and Much leading right now by the best part of 3.3 seconds ahead of Crawford, followed by where it's the case that Crawford battling with McNeely right now as they go side by side down in towards turn number 1 they go, and as they come into the corner right now, it is the case looking very close indeed as they come through, and they're just literally tapping nose to tail there, but it's all settled down once again. McNeely up a position, but you can imagine that Crawford is going to be trying to find his way back through very soon indeed, as he's going to be pushing on, and it is the case that as they change positions, you've got Kenny Brady right now in P4, then Chadwick in P5, as we hear Josh Brown has had a major incident and Donovan Strauss has jumped to the pits, but we see that Chadwick in P5 right now, he's got a bit of pressure building on him from Dobble behind, as Dobble looks for a potential move here. They're coming down in towards the hairpin. Will he be able to find it? Will Thompson, meanwhile under pressure from what is there Jamie Dorey as they come into the corner, but you can see that Dobble clipping the back of what was Chadwick's car, and as a result losing all the momentum he gained in the run down towards what was turn number 6, and now he's got it all to do again as they all come down into the chicane of turn 7 and 8 here. No change at the moment, and a little bit further back we can see that at the head of the next pack we do have Josh Poulain, I believe. Well, that's not Josh Poulain, my apologies, that's Guido Casaniga who's making his way through, and we can see that Vicente Salas under attack here by Josh Poulain as they come through turn number 8 and head up towards turn number 9 here, and the American driver, the Californian driver here, coming all the way down through the corners right now and doing everything he can to try and hold on to that P13 position. The pro driver under a lot of pressure here as Poulain is really starting to build up that pressure, and as they make their way out of the corner and go on to another lap, it is the case that right now things are really pressing to a head as we see our leaders already come across that timeline, and then we've got the second pack coming across here, and you can see that Casaniga simply trying to hold on for now, trying to keep the momentum on his side. As they come into the braking zone here, we can see that Salas getting a little bit closer comfort under braking and feeling a lot more aggressive on the brakes. But meanwhile, looking back up front, we can see that Much pulling away as they make their way around, and then looking a bit further back, as I can tell you that we see there that we've got McNeely right now really starting to pull a little bit away from Crawford as they come charging down the hill here through turns 4 and 5 and in towards 6. Then that was a glitch in our timing screen. I can tell you that Much has not pulled an 11-second gap that early on in the race, although that would be phenomenal if he did. But we can see McNeely starting to pull away a little bit from Crawford right now. Crawford just starting to lose some of the early momentum, but one driver who's not losing momentum, in fact, is Dobble, who's under attack from what is Thompson here, and Thompson going for the move very late on the inside there at turn 7, but you can do that in these cars. What the fact that these cars are so gentle to the touch here, and as they make their way down towards turn number 9, will we receive a return favour from Dobble as we ride on board with Dobble's car as he makes his way through turn number 9 here, and you can see as he comes out the corner, he'll be looking to try and sling himself into the slipstream here of what is both Thompson and Chadwick ahead, but he's a bit too far back, I believe, as they make their way out of the right-hander at turn 10 and head on to another lap. But as they come all the way down here, we can see the Wildstar racer leader has crossed that timing line. It's the case that Dobble has just done so now, and as they come up towards that braking zone for turn number 1, and no attempt at a move this time, too far back, but you can definitely see how he's having to try and push that car to its utmost right now, as ahead everybody stays nose to tail. Meanwhile, a little bit further down in P16, we've got Wayne Douglas here, who's had a difficult start to race, lost 3 places on the opening 3 laps right now, but it is the case that the pro driver in the number 66 car will try to come back a little bit later on, as I'm hearing there's been a major incident for Ollie Wayne. Let's take a look back at what happened. So this was only moments to go with regards to the Buccaneer Autosport driver here. The number 86 car coming down into what was turn number 6, and the rear end's just snapped, and then car number 16 has sent him for a little bit of a spin, but he stopped the car, and that's the one nice things about these cars, is the fact that you can get them stopped rather rapidly, but waned all the way down now in P18. A difficult day at the races so far, as we're hearing that Max Brady has also had a major incident, and we're going to take a look back at what's happened to Mr. Brady. So number 57 driver here as it's coming out, and number 7 just tapping him on the back, multiple taps in fact, and number 7 driving a bit too aggressively there, and I think that was Donovan Strauss trying to make his way through. I'm not sure if there was a previous altercation between the two drivers, but definitely there looked as though Strauss was not a happy bunny as they were coming through the corner, and that was a little bit of a sight for sore eyes, as we see that right now coming across our timeline once again we've got McNeely in P2 right now and Brady in P3 here, but we can see that the battle's on, and it's Thompson versus Crawford as they come down into turn 1. Crawford backing out of it, but Crawford's lost a lot of momentum. He's not got the toe of any drives, and in fact I think Crawford's had a bit of a poor run coming out the final corner. So you can see he's also lost the place to Chadwick here, and he's having to tuck him behind right now, and because of that you can see we've got Dobble who's coming through the order right there, and then we have got the driver behind the number 13 car, Jamie Dorey, in the thick of it as well, and Jamie would love an opportunity here to try and find his way through the pack, as we still got the best part of over 9 minutes of racing to go, and you can see they're all settling down once again, but as soon as you come out that toe on that start finish straight, you are susceptible to a potential multi-pass, and we just saw that in the case of Crawford under a lot of pressures. We got a bit of a lock-up ahead, and we can see everybody concertinaing together here, and I do think Chadwick was the one with the lock-up there, as we did see some smoke, and as they make their way down towards turn number 7 here, we're just hearing Vicente Salas has had an accident somewhere out on circuit, and it is the case he's jumped to the pits, so Salas has having to go for that fast repair, or it will be a retirement on this opening race, as we see that Guido Kazinga is making some moves right now as the 89 driver, but he's lost a bit of momentum here, and in fact he's going to be triple passed as they come out of turn number 8. Now what's happened there, we'll take a look back very shortly, but right now as they all make their way up into turn number 9, you can see at the head of the pack, that's Poulain making his way through, and he's starting to break away a little bit, but behind him we've got Douglas here, and it is Lee Horn who's made a mistake coming out of turn 9, just ran a little bit wide and dropped off the curb and dropped into the gravel. And as they come out of turn 10 then, in the long charge down towards turn 1, you can see immediately Horn trying to find his way back, the number 36 car here, as they come charging down towards turn number 1. And as they make their way into the braking zone, they all start to file into a formation to go for the move. And it's the case that Horn cannot find a way past. As we see there, it is Douglas who's going very defensive, but by coming out of the toe of the lead driver, oh, goodness me, and that is a car into all. That's the number 25 car into all. That's Poulain who's had a major incident into all. The car's just simply given way, and he's dropped multiple positions as a result. Let's take a look back at what's happened. So coming through the corner here, I think for Poulain, he's just simply let the rear end go a little bit too wide. In fact, yep, it's gone up onto the curb, and the rear left tyre said, I'm going onto the sand whether you like it or not, and the car's lost control. And that's how light these cars are and how tricky they can be to drive, despite the fact they may look very tiny and only have a very small engine, but they have a lot of power to boot, as we see now Poulain stuck behind the number 9 car there, albeit I believe that's Lundgren, who is a lap down on the field right now. So it is the case that he is going to be lapped very shortly by Poulain, but meanwhile looking a bit further up front, we can see that Much holding on to a very impressive gap right now. He's still got 7 minutes of racing to go, and doing everything he needs to. Meanwhile, McNeely breaking away a little bit from Brady, as we see. And meanwhile, Brady here in P3, he's got Thompson chasing after him. And as we ride on board the gearbox of Brady here, looking back towards Thompson. Now, where will Thompson look for a potential move? That is the big question here. As they come into the braking zone, he's going to go for the move. He can't quite find it into turn 1. Very close there, and you can see Thompson saving it for the last possible moment. Very brave on the brakes, as we're hearing that is the case that Tom Emerson has just passed Guido Casaniga for P14, but focusing on our battle for P3 right now. You can see Thompson trying to squeeze on the inside, and just a little bit of a snap oversteer moment from Brady, and I think that was also a little bit of emergency action versus Thompson. But the Pro-Am driver, to be fair, in P4 right now, he should be very pleased with where he is, as we hear that Robert Lundgren has jumped to the pits, but we've got Chadwick behind. And in terms of the next, oh goodness me, and is that a lock up there from what was Brady having a major lock up into turn 6, unfortunate to stop the car before it decided to go rallycross, but as a result now he is falling down the order, and I suspect there's going to be a flat spot or two on those tyres as he comes down into turns 7 and 8 here, and he's got to be careful now, because the next closest Pro-Am driver is Blaze Crawford, the white number 4 car here, the red number 4 and the white car, and he will be able to see Brady in the distance, and he'll be salivating at the prospect of picking up the win in the Pro-Am class in race number 1 if he's able to keep it together, and it's the case that Brady's not able to. But everybody now forming into another line as they come through turn number 10 at the end of what is lap number 7 going on to lap number 8 very shortly. We can see our race race leader is just disappearing off into the distance there. But meanwhile, focusing on the battle in the hand, we do see that Foyle here chasing after what is both Peters and Hayhoe. Paul Hayhoe there up into P9. He's had a very good race so far as Hayhoe gaining 2 positions, but will he be able to hold on as Ollie Peters is starting to snake around under braking? He's looking for a potential move here. Will the Crest Autosport driver be able to find a way through, or will it be too much of a challenge here with 5 minutes of racing to go? We suspect approximately 4 to 5 more laps as they come down into turn number 3, and we're hearing that Dobble has just passed Kenny Brady, and in fact we will take a look back at that shortly. But focus on Brady right now. He's lost a lot of momentum through turn 3 with the pass made by Dobble, and this is Crawford's opportunity. Will he be able to go for it as they come down into turn number 6? So the 8th time asking, he's gone a bit deep again, and as they come out the corner here, it's all about the acceleration, and Crawford takes the lead in the Pro-Am class in race number 1 with a move at turn number 6 as they come down towards turn number 7, and we can see there, that's also Dorey coming through. Jamie Dorey making a move as well on the number 54 car. The number 13 driver here doing a very good job of just biding his time and waiting for an opportunity as they make their way down towards turn number 9. But of course, now's the long run from turn 9 up towards turn 1, and this is the critical moment where it's all about nailing that exit of 9, and we've seen so many drivers go too wide or too light on that exit curve, but everybody gets it right this time, and now Dorey is trying to chase down Crawford. Will he be able to do it? He has got the best part of 4 laps to go. Will he be able to take the win? Will he be able to take that P6 back as they go charging down towards turn number 1 once again? As they make their way down, you can see there you've got Hayhoe just taking a little bit of a touch. Oh, goodness me. And oh, is that Brady getting it wrong onto the grass? They're just using a bit too much width for the circuit. And Brady loses another place, and he loses it to the Car Review UK driver of Hayhoe as they come down towards turn 2 and head into 3 very shortly. It's the case that Brady, I think, just pushing a little bit too hard and trying to experiment with track limits that he doesn't need to right now. But to be fair to Brady, he's had to push very hard over the course of this race, and it was a strong qualifying session. I think he's just a little bit rattled right now in the race, and he'll be needing to calm it down for race number 2 because we know he's got the pace, but those mistakes there is just a sign of perhaps things getting a little bit too pressurised as he comes through. But he takes another deep line into turn number 6, and I definitely think there is something wrong with the tyres on that car or the brakes, because he is having difficulty getting the car stopped. As we hear Tom Delaney has jumped to the pit, and meanwhile we can see here Brady being attacked into turn 7. It's the number 121 car, and it is the case that Foyle is also making his way through. So both Peters and Foyle make their way through into P9 and P10 respectively, and Brady falling down the order. And from one Brady to another, I'm hearing that Max Brady's just had a major incident, and that Tom Emerson has just got past Wayne Douglas for P13. But we'll wait and see, folks, as we're looking back at the battle with a P13, and we can see it is the case that Douglas trying to find his way back into this fight, but not able to be tucked in very close behind right now. And I do think it's going to be the case that Emerson's going to be under offence here from the pro drivers. They make their way in the long drag race down towards turn number 1, and you can see that we've got Emerson holding to the inside here. But Douglas is trying to slipstream his way past, getting a distant tar for Horn as they make their way up into the braking zone for 1. They're side by side. It's Emerson on the inside, Douglas on the outside. They come into the braking zone here, and you can see what Douglas is trying to do. He's trying to get the cut back with the drift there, but he gets a little bit too leery on the rear end, and as a result he loses the speed he needs to be able to try and make the cutback pass, and he has to stay behind for the time being, as we now only got 2 minutes of racing to go. And we look back down the order a little bit further, and we can see we've got Adam Kovac here down in what is P18. He is on a mission right now to chase after what is Josh Poulain here as they come into turn 3. But meanwhile, I'm hearing in the battle for P2 as our camera flips around here, and we can see that it is the case that the number 2 driver McNeely has just passed Bobby Thompson for P2 as Tom Delaney's had another incident. We'll take a look back very shortly, but right now you can see the body language on Thompson's car. He's waiting for his chance to strike back, and they will go on to their final lap very shortly as they come through the double right sequence of 9 and 10. And it is the case that right now, as we jump on board with what is the gearbox here of McNeely, you can see that Thompson all over the back right now and trying to gain the toe here, and it will start to build up the speed right now as they go charging down. A little bit of a weave here from McNeely, but I think that's more of the road surface change. But Thompson biding his time here. He's potentially looking to move, throwing a little bit of a dummy, but it is the case he's not going to be able to get past so far. As we see McNeely parks on the apex of turn 1, tries to take the pace out of Thompson's car as they make their way around here, and this is expected to be the final lap as they come charging through turns 2 and 3, and they come up into 3 here. Will Thompson tries something very cheeky. Will he try and cut back on the apex of 3? But we can see McNeely very wise to the wily Thompson as they come through turn 3 and now head downhill through 4 and 5 here. There's no way through for Thompson through turn number 3, but now the circuit will open up, of course, so they come out of turn 6 and there'll be a limited number of opportunities, but there'll be important opportunities. As we've seen, McNeely goes a little bit deep. That's to try and give himself the best possible acceleration line out of turn 6 and down through into 7 and 8 as they come charging down here into the braking zone for the chicane. Will it be the case that Thompson goes for it? No, he's going to wait until the very end, but you can see McNeely parking the car constantly on the apex. He's just not carrying any speed. He's trying to kill the speed out of Thompson's car, but Thompson's going to look to the outside here. But as he comes out the final corner, it is going to be a very strong race. He's led it from start to finish, and it will be Good and Much who takes the win in the pro class there, as we see somebody going for a somersault on the start finish line. Much takes the win in race number 1 of round number 4, and behind him it will be McNeely, who holds on to P2 in the end, ahead of what is Thompson, and it's Dobble in P4, it's Crawford in P5 winning the Pro-Am category in race number 1, Jamie Dorey in P6, a brilliant drive by both of them, Paul Hayho in P7 there, and then we've got William Chadwick in P8, William Foyle in P9, and Ollie Peters rounding off our top 10 there. Then down in P11 it was Kenny Brady ahead of Lee Horn, Tom Emson, Wayne Douglas, and then in P15 on his debut in race number 1, a good performance from Guido Casaniga as he comes across the line in P15. Well, that was race number 1, ladies and gentlemen. And we are going to be taking a brief break, but we will be back within the next 5 minutes or so for the build-up to race number 2. Do not go anywhere. You will not want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with only 4 minutes to go until race number 2. And we do apologise for the slight delay. We've just been trying to resolve an issue with regards to the software we use known as Trading Paints, which enables us to update our cars' liveries, so that way you can see the liveries that our drivers have put on their cars. And I believe we may still be experiencing an issue with regards to Trading Paints, which if so, we'll have to try and resolve it for the future broadcast. It's not something we'll be able to resolve now, but you can imagine after what was a very fast and frantic race number 1, we've got plenty more racing action coming at you very soon, and it is the case that we will now have the reverse grid, which is going to turn things upside down. It's going to turn the tables, and we are waiting for that reverse grid to get underway. Now, whilst we are waiting to go racing once again, of course, a lot to talk about in the opening race, particularly the potency of Slipstream in the run from turn 10 all the way down towards turn number 1, and a number of incidents between drivers throughout as well. Some drivers really falling victim to some nasty moments, and others being able to benefit from said moments as much as humanly possible. And indeed, it is the case that we can expect that there's going to be plenty more battling up and down the field in the racing to come. Now, we are just briefly making one slight adjustment to some of the information on our screen, so if you give us 2 seconds, and that is with regards to both Bobby Thompson and also his colleague at the end of the day. We're just changing their team name over. We were going to do that during the break, but of course we were trying to investigate into the Trading Paints issue, so we will be back and have that resolved very shortly for you folks with regards to the names. But in the meantime, we're seeing in the chat from a number of you with regards to your feelings on race number 1, and it was the case that for Katie Eames expecting Crawford to be the Pro-Am winner and much for Pro, and indeed those predictions did come to fruition, and it was also the case there. We saw Matt Evans predicting Jamie Dorey would win the Pro-Ams, very close, Jamie Dorey coming in P2 of course in the Pro-Am category in race number 1, but we will wait and see what happens in the upcoming races. We've still got plenty more racing to come. As we take a look around the order there, as we finally fix some of the data on our side, we are also checking in with race control right now, and nothing major to report at this time. So we are just counting down now, less than 2 minutes to go. And once we get going, it will be the case we will be charging around the Dutch circuit once again. As we take a look down at the order, Wayne having a very difficult time. Ollie Wayne, the Buccaneer Autosport driver, having a very troublesome time in race number 1. And we'll be looking to bounce back this time, race number 2. Now, with regards to that reverse grid, because it only applies to what is the top 12 positions, you can imagine that drivers such as Wayne, who had a very difficult race, are going to find themselves not benefiting from the reverse grid, but they may have an opportunity to get a bit closer to the faster drivers, because the faster drivers have now got to try and get their way through a small portion of the field. And that is something which can always work to an advantage, particularly if you get one slower driver who decides to act as a rolling roadblock, which some do because they want to try and finish as high as possible. And another driver who will be looking to try and find his way all the way out the order this time is Vicente Salas, who had a disastrous race number 1 with multiple incidents and jumps to the pits, but we will wait and see what he's able to do here in race number 2. With less than 30 seconds to go before we get that transition over to what is the race, and we'll have the formation of the grid with that standing start, of course, which many drivers found worked out for them. Other drivers it didn't quite work out with a lot of wheel spin, and that's all part of the name of the game, nailing that standing start. But right now, in the final part of this practice session, we can see McNeely there with the fastest time, but indeed we know McNeely can go a little bit fast there, and we've got plenty of drivers who've not set times yet and are instead waiting to go. As we see here, we do have what looks to be a Dorey, and also side by side with him, one of the drivers here as they make their way down towards turn number 1. As the practice session comes to its end, and we will be seeing the grid form up very shortly. And as it does form up, of course, then it will be another 15 minutes of races. We get the switch to the form up. Now, as that grid's about to be formed up, ladies and gentlemen, here is your starting order then, your top 12 for race number 2. It's going to be Lee Horn starting on pole this time, and alongside him will be Kenny Brady. And then on the second row, Ollie Peters and William Ford, the two Crest Autosport drivers there side by side are lining up on the second row. And then we will have William Chadwick, the first of our pro drivers there in P5, Paul Hayho alongside him in P6, Jamie Dorey in P7, Blaze Crawford in P8, And then we have 2 rows of pros, row 5 and row 6. Row 5 starting off with Mikey Dobble and Bobby Thompson there. And then we are going to have on that final 6th row of our top 12, Liam McNeely, and our race winner in race number 1, Gordon Mutch in the pro category there. The Barracuda Motorsport driver who will be looking to go charging once again. I'm sure Bobby Thompson will also form part of their aspirations to try and scythe their way through the field. As we switch the camera around here, folks, you can see everybody as they're about to get racing once again. And we now wait for the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And they go away once again for race number 2 around number 4. And this time Horn getting a good start, but Brady getting a much stronger start by comparison. And Kenny Brady already on a charge here. As we see behind it, it's Ollie Peters who's caught up a little bit as they all come charging down towards turn number 1 here. And it's Chadwick up into P3 already as we look a bit further back. And we can see already the field starting to space out through turn 1. But everybody's on a major charge right now as Ollie Peters trying to get his way back through. It's Chadwick who's up into P2. But we can see Peters trying to come through as well. A little further back, we've got Blaze Crawford going on a mission. He's going to try and go around the outside of what is the number 5 car there, Paul Hayhoe, as they come through turn 3. And as they come up the hill, now there's a little bit of contact. The 2 drivers get a little bit knocked about here. And behind them, you can see you've got Jamie Dorey trying to get in. But as they come down towards turns at 5 and 6 right now on the brakes, and it is the case Crawford find his way through as we've got a car that's errant across the circuit. And that is completely flipped the order there. And I'm not 100% sure who that was, but you can see we've just got literally car after car here being caught up in a major incident. And a lot of drivers, well, we've got where is Tom Emerson jumping to the pits there, but I believe it was the car of Guido Casaniga that came charging down into that. We will take a look back at that very shortly, but right now up front as they make their way down towards what is turn at number 9, you can see it's Brady leading right now, but Chadwick on a charge behind him as they come out of the corner and head up towards turn number 10 once again. And as they then come around here, they complete their opening lap, and it will be the case that leading after 1 lap, it is Kenny Brady leading by the best part of only 3/10 of a second, but being reeled in by William Chadwick in P2. We've got Lee Horn in P3, being chased by Ollie Peters in P4. Then you've got William Fowler in P5, and then we've got Paul Hayhoe in P6, followed by what is Bobby Thompson in P7, Liam McNeely in P8, Jamie Dorey in P9, and then it is Wayne Douglas round off your top 10 right now. Gordon Mutch in P11, who's a little bit further back, and then we've got Max Brady in P12, and that's our top 12. They've spaced out a bit from the rest of the field, but you can see Vicente Salas right now under attack from Adam Kovac as they come up into turn number 2 here. Kovac trying to find a way through, but he's not able to as they come into the braking zone for turn number 3. And as they flick the cars around here through turn number 3, there's no way through so far for what is Kovac. He's going to have to find another way through. He's going to have to try and throw it back another way as they come down towards turn number 6 once again. But a major incident on the opening lap and a lot of moves as a result of it. And we're now going to take a look back at what happened on that opening lap as we saw that huge incident. As we just try and take a look at what happened. So as they were all coming down here, we believe it was Casaniga. That was the number. I think that was the number 88 car. I think that was Mikey Dobble, in fact, who came charging through, and that is what set off the whole chain of events there. And well, I believe it was. It's very hard to tell which one was the first car to come through, but definitely someone came through way too heavy on the brakes and just completely missed it. But in terms of missing things, we come back to live action right now, and we can see that Hayhoe is getting past McNeely as they go 2 by 2. Hurrah! In fact, it's going to be 4 wide as they come charging across the timing line to go on to lap number 3. This is the battle for what is P number 5 right now, and we can see that on the inside there, that's Thompson trying to come through, trying to make a double move on the inside. And as they come through turn number 1, they're still 4 wide coming through the corner. Nobody wants to give way, but you can see ahead of Lee Horn trying to break away. Hayhoe at the head of his pack still as Foyle now sweeps in, and it's McNeely as well who's now got himself ahead of the pair as they come down to the braking zone for turn number 3 here. And as they do it, it's Dorey who's right tucked in this pack, and it's 6 cars effectively all competing over what is P number 5 right now. As we can see here, it's Dorey under a lot of pressure from what is their Gordon Mutch, who's trying to now come through as they come into the braking zone. Number 13 goes for a very, very late move on the inside. There's contact, and there's cars spun here. As you can see, that's number 9, that's Thompson who gets spun, and it's Jamie Dorey who carries on as we see Max Brady now finds his way through. But there, it's just getting a little bit closer comfort for a lot of our drivers here. Indeed, the contact levels are now going up as they all come down towards turn 7 and 8 here, and we see that is the case that Wayne Douglas has just dropped the position to Salas as they come through turn number 8 and head up in towards turn number 9, coming down into the braking zone for turn number 9 once again here, and all tucked in nose to tail as they come through. And meanwhile, we look a little bit further down the order, we can hear that Ollie Wayne has just passed Josh Poulain for what is P15 right now, and Wayne on a charge after what was a disastrous start once again, and trying to push his way. He's gained 1 place so far and carrying his way. Meanwhile, in the battle for the race lead, it's Brady versus Chadwick. Chadwick goes up the inside here, and I think given the fact that these two drivers are in 2 different classes, Brady does not want to fight this one too much. He wants to simply hold on, but I say that he's still there side by side in the run up towards 2, and there's contact between the pair of them. Oh my goodness, and that is going to completely open the race up, as you now have a new race leader in the form of Peters as they wait for everybody to come through here. And you can see how it's the case that both drivers there absolutely fuming at the contact between them, neither one of them way to give away as the 86 car comes in, and it does not cause contact, but Wayne finds a way through in the end, as you can see that both drivers out of the way, and that is a disaster for both our race leaders, Brady and also the other driver with him. It's just gone horribly wrong, and that was Chadwick there, who's now having to literally drive the car as if it's got no engine life left in it whatsoever. But that does mean we have a new race leader, albeit for only a brief second. I say that as Ollie Peters has to now defend versus McNeely here, and Wayne has just had a major incident as well further down the order, but Peters under pressure from McNeely. We've got Horn and Hayho also trying to come through our top 4 right now, and McNeely would love to get past and then just break away as we ride on board with the gearbox here, Peters, and it's a bit too close to comfort as they come through turn number 10, and as they charge through here, it is the case, I think it's going to be McNeely's looking for the move here as they come charging down towards the timeline to go on to lap number 5. And as they push along, it is the case that neither driver has the slipstream here. It's all about the run and bravery on the brakes as we've got McNeely on the inside. As they come into the braking zone here, we can see it's McNeely who goes in as Peters locks up the front right brake. They're trying to turn it in under braking. The car wasn't going to do it. Lee Horn down in P3 right now and simply tucked in behind there. But you can see that McNeely with a traditional pass into turn 1 up into lead right now. And Horn and Hayho would love an opportunity to take on Peters here. Remember, the 3 Pro-Am drivers chasing after the Pro right now as they come through the corner here. And meanwhile, a little bit further down, we can see that we have got what is here. We've got Much in P5. He was going to be charging after our top 4 and hoping to close up on them as much as possible now that he's got a little bit of a gap to the chasing back behind him with Salas behind him there. But you can see the number 14 driver very bold on the brakes into the hairpin there, and we're seeing this difference in lines between drivers. The drivers who take a more open line into the hairpin versus drivers who simply brake heavy on that inside line, and we've seen that braking heavy on the inside has led to a number of incidents into the hairpin, and I do wonder if the stewards are going to be reporting about that following into race 3 to say that taking such an aggressive line is dangerous, as we're hearing that Poulain's had a major incident, as has Kenny Brady here. What's happened to these two? So this was in the battle for what was, I think, P15 at the time, as they come down into the braking zone here, and Poulain just simply bullets across the circuit there. And, well, it was the case that Kenny Brady had nowhere to go, and I don't think he suspected that to happen at any point. Well, Poulain's car just simply did not stop, and I think there might be a braking issue with that car, as we hear Crawford has just jumped to the pit. But meanwhile, in the battle for the top 4, we can see it's now Hayho versus Horn. Hayho on the inside here, as we get a small lag spike there that causes Hayho to disappear out of existence briefly, but he does return to the existential plane of racing as they come down into turn number 2, and as they come into that braking zone for 3, it's the case that Horn holding on right now. Horn knowing where to place his car for the sweeping set of the right into right combination, and we can see that right now he's doing everything he needs to, Horn, in order to hold on to that P3 position, but he's under a lot of pressure as they make their way down in towards the turn 6 hairpin. And you can see in the battle for the lead, it's Peters versus what is McNeely, but Peters goes deep on the brakes here, and as a result, what Peters is trying to do is trying to give himself the sling out the hairpin to turn 7 here, and I like what Peters is trying to do, but he's got to be careful, because if Horn or Hayho see that gap's open, they will take it. They will take it as threat that Peters has gone too deep to make the hairpin at turn number 6 when he's trying to sling himself out the corner. But as they come out of turn number 8 here, it is the case that right now Horn and Hayho just have to watch, and we do have Gordon Much, who is gradually closing up to the back of them right now as they come through the right-hander here and then charge in towards what is turn at number 10 once again. And we can see it's the case that Salas also tacking onto the back here as they make their way through. So our top 6 now starting to close up to one another. They're separated by only 2 seconds nose to tail here, and as they look back to the front of the pack as they come charging down towards what is turn at number 1 once again, we can see nobody really going for any visible moves right now, even at the very rear of your camera shots. They all come charging through, and we can see here we've got Bobby Thompson, who's having to make a recovery drive from P10 right now after what has been a very difficult race for the British driver as they make their way through turn number 1 here. And Brady, by comparison, the number 57 car here, well, it's been knocked about out quite a bit, but the High Performance Motorsports driver, I think, will be happy with the P12 so far. As we see behind here, we've got Kazaniga versus Delaney here as they come out the corner. He holds on to position for right now, but as they come charging through. My apologies, he's dropped the position there. So what? Well, that is not. That is a car. My apologies. That is the number 4 car there of what is Blaze Crawford, who is effectively a lap down, and he's just come out the pit. But meanwhile, looking back up front, we can see McNeely holding on to a lead right now as they come down towards turns 7 and 8 once again. And it is this little train of cars right now that is getting ever closer to one another with 5.5 minutes to go, and it is going to open up the racing very rapidly. As I can tell you that right now, ladies and gentlemen, as they come charging through, if you're wondering why we are missing 1 or 2 drivers, we have had a couple of drivers have to retire before going into race number 2 due to damage to their cars, not able to get back out on the circuit. But we see Much here going for the move versus Hey-Ho. He goes on the inside through turn number 10, and now this is a gamble for Much because he's relying on the fact he's got more speed coming out of turn 10 to keep him there safe on that inside line versus Hey-Ho having the slingshot because of the slipstream of the drivers in front. And we can see that McNeely there taking a defensive inside line there, feeling pressure, but Much just having enough speed to hold on versus Hey-Ho through turn number 1 there. A very nice move. But meanwhile, Peters versus McNeely, and Peters has got to be careful here. We saw a huge incident only 3 laps to go for the race lead, which took both leaders out, and we will not want it to happen again with the 2 cars just came together on their roll bars, not on their roll bars, on their bumper bars at the front. But we can see right now that McNeely under a lot of pressure from Peters, as Horn is now starting to experience pressure from Much here as they come down towards what is turns 5 and 6 once again, and we can see they all go side by side into the corner, but Peters giving a light tap to the rear left panel of what was McNeely and gets a bit of snap oversteer as he tries to get on the power, and this is going to cost Peters badly as Horn's going to find his way through. We believe he's going to try and go for it on the inside in towards turn number 7 here, but Peters has got the run, or has he? He's going to be on the inside. It's Peters at turn 8, the number 121 car, and behind them Hey-Ho's just been contacted by what was there Salas, and Salas has sent Hey-Ho onto the apex stand there as we look a little bit further back up, and we can see that everything is now erupting ahead of them here as we can see that Much now in that P3. Peters losing out there as we looked away very briefly, going so defensive as Peters. He's lost the momentum in the run to 9. And as they come out the corner, it's now Horn who's leading this battle, and we can see McNeely starting to break away. He's got a second gap as they go on to lap number 9 here, and we've still got the best part of 3.5 minutes of racing to go. As a little bit further back we can see that we've got Foyle in a battle with Douglas here, and it is the case that Foyle loses the position to Douglas, or does he? As he looks at the cutback, there's a bit of contact and the drivers make it through. McNeely and Much right now are leading. I can tell you that Much has just got himself up into P2, but staying with Foyle, we've got Dorey trying to go around the outside into 2 to get the inside into 3, but it's on the threshold of grip, and Dorey was not able to find his way through. Very brave there, the NXTGEN Racing driver, but I think a bit too brave, and it's costing the momentum. But we can see that now it's the case that Much has got his way past Horn, and now he's going to have to defend for his life here and try and bring McNeely into the clutches on the closing laps here. We will wait to see what's going to happen, and let's just take a look back at what happened in that battle. So this was only moments ago, ladies and gentlemen, the battle for P2, and we're going to see here as they come out of 1 and head into 2, you're going to see that Thompson's on the outside, but he's got so much momentum he can just sweep it round here, but he's got to be brave to do that because of the fact that he had that outside to inside line there, but he managed to get it done. A nice move there by Much, and definitely now starting to press on after McNeely with only 2.5 minutes of racing remaining. And meanwhile in P5 we can see Salas now all over the back of Peters. He does have a cloud hanging over his head, however, after the contact with Hey-Ho, only a lap ago at turn number 8, but we'll wait and see about that with the stewards after the race. But we do see right now that it is the case that Salas looking for the move here. I think he's going to go for it on the inside, and under braking they go, and it's the case that the number 121 driver there of what was Peters trying to squeeze Salas as tight as possible to the inside, but giving him just enough room to go racing, and Salas is up into P4. Behind them meanwhile we've got Douglas there in what is P6. He's being chased by Foyle, Dorey and Thompson. He's having a hold on here with 2 laps remaining, we believe, perhaps even a 3rd lap if they're able to make it, as they come through turn at number 3 here, and you can see that is the case that right now for Douglas, he's having to hold on for dear life to P6 as they make their way down towards what is turn at number 6 once again here. The hairpin has caught so many out, and we can see that Dorey very close, and it's the case that we see that that is I believe that is Foyle there, going for a spin. Now, was there contact between himself and Dorey? I think there may have been a tiny bit of contact, but as a result of that, you can see that Thompson now gaining massively because of the contact, and he goes to the move immediately into 7 and shuts the door just about through 8 here. Thompson now looking for the opportunity to go for P6 here and get himself set up for another good points finish as they make their way down into turn number 9 for the 10th, for the 9th time of asking, as our race leader has, it is the 10th time of asking, as our race leader isn't that far ahead, I should point out, as he goes on to the final lap. Does McNeely right now. He has got a sizable gap to the rest of the field as he comes across that timeline. It's not 7 seconds, I can assure you that much, but meanwhile behind we see here, we have got Horn in the battle with Salas. Salas trying to come around the outside, trying to take the racing line. Horn defending into the inside here, and Horn trying to hold on to P3, trying to be the best of the pro-ams here and also take some pro scalps as well as he makes his way out of 1 and up into turn 3 here. Will Salas be able to find his way through, or will the American be held off by the Briton as they come through into turn number 3? You can see Peters trying to get on the mixer as well. He'd love to snatch that P3 off the pair of them as they make their way through the corner. We're hearing Foyle's had a major incident and dropping even further down the order, but right now we're focusing on this battle for P3 as they come charging down the hill towards turn number 6. What will Salas do? Will he send it or try and go the long way round? Well, it looks as though Salas trying to go the long way round and cutting back and get under that throttle nice and early, and you can see the speed Salas has got off it as a result, as he's going to have the momentum here up the run towards turn number 7. He'll be on that inside here, and it is the case. I think Salas is going to come through, and he's managed to gain the position, and now it's all about Horn just simply trying to hold off Peters here. He mustn't let the loss of P3 get to him because he's got Peters right behind him right now, and that will be critical as they're both battling within class. But as he makes his way into the final corner and powers his way through, it will be the case that it will be Liam McNeely who takes the win in race number 2. The pro driver taking the win in what has been a very difficult race in round number 4, but he wins good and much in P2 in the end, and Salas will take home P3. Horn will win the Pro-Am class in P4, Ollie Peters in P5, and then it will be the case that Wayne Douglas comes home in P6 ahead of Bobby Thompson. He pipped him in the end. Jamie Dorey in P8, and then we've got William Foyle in P9 ahead of Paul Hayhoe in P10, and it's Adam Kovac who takes P11 there ahead of Max Brady, and it's Guido Casaniga coming home in P13, a difficult race for Casaniga, and then we've got Mikey Dobble in P14, Tom Delaney in P15 as he comes out the final corner to complete our top 15 here with a car that looks very battered and bruised, and I think there's going to be a lot of words to the stewards as we see he decides to send the car into the wall there and do a flip using the iRacing physics for good measure. But that, ladies and gentlemen, was race number 2, and we will be back within the next 5 to 10 minutes for the final race of this evening at Zandvoort. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with 5 minutes to go until we get racing for the final time tonight at Zandvoort at the Dutch circuit in race number 3 of round number 4 of the Legends Cup Season 2. First 2 races have been very eventful to say the least, but I suspect that race number 3 is going to be even so more eventful, what are the facts we are due to have for our full reverse grid. Now, it should be pointed out, as was asked for in the Facebook chat by Katie Eames, that we do have a couple of drivers absent. Well, we did have a couple of drivers absent from what was race number 2. Unfortunately, I suspect those drivers will not be able to get their cars ready and racing to go for race number 3 either. Some drivers have some technical issues with their car, and I believe we have had the retirement, for example, of Robert Lundgren, in particular, where the car he's not been able to get the car serviced after the damage that was picked up in race number 1. But it does happen, and sometimes our drivers will have the opportunity to bounce back later in the season, because obviously they need more time to repair the car. But right now, where we lose a couple of drivers, we should still have a 20 plus strong field, despite the fact losing a couple there through attrition, and we'll be going at racing once again. And the big takeaways we took from the top 12 reverse grid in race number 2, the simple takeaway was the fact that trying to come through the field is very difficult indeed, particularly when you've got drivers coming through. We've got a lot of speed, but at the same time, you've got a lot of drivers who are trying to be very bold on the brakes, and particularly at this corner, turn 6, and we also saw it down into turn 1, and also the fact that side-by-side through turn 2 into 3 can be very difficult, and that is one of the biggest challenges that I think a number of our drivers are really experiencing here at the Dutch circuit, is the fact that it's one thing to have the pace, it's another thing to be able to overtake someone or be able to clear them completely, because of the fact that it's very difficult to build up a major speed advantage unless you have the toe of the driver in front and they do not have the toe of a driver ahead of them. But it can be said that with the fact of the fact we had the results from race number 2 coming so strongly for the likes of McNeely, for example, starting at the back, McNeely is going to have a lot of work set out for him as he sets the fastest lap in this final practice session so far with just under 3 minutes to go. The number 2 driver there coming through right now. Now, as he makes his way through turn number 1 and heads up into turn number 2, we are just going to take a look around and see if there's anything else coming from the stewards. We're not hearing anything else from our stewards at this point, so it will be the case we are planning to go racing dead on the dot in approximately 2.5 minutes' time. And feel free to place your predictions, but I do think we are going to see 2 different winners once again, one in the Pro and one in the Pro-Am category, given the fact we do have this reverse grid, and I think it's going to be a major challenge for the likes of McNeely, but also the drivers around him, for example, such as Douglas, to try and scythe their way up through the field, but you never know what could happen. And Jamie Dorey, I think, is going to be a favourite for a top 5 finish, definitely within his class, or could he even potentially be in with a top 5 finish through the reverse grid? He's going to have to come a long way through the field in order to do it, but we will wait and see what he is able to achieve. Of course, the number 13 driver, that number unlucky for some, but definitely not unlucky for him. It's bringing him good fortunes, number 13 car, as he makes his way out of turn number 3 there. As he comes all the way down the hills now through turn 4 and into 5 and 6. We can see we've also got Lee Horn, another Next Gen Racing driver. The pair of them, both Horn and also Dorey, looking very strong here and consistent. And hey-ho, I think we'll be looking at this as an opportunity. After that incident, which saw him drop down the order at turn number 8 there, which I believe the stewards will be taking a look at a later time, it's the case that hey-ho would love an opportunity here to bounce back from race number 2. Definitely because he's been looking strong. And as I said to you, going into tonight's race, and when we caught up with Hey-Ho in the build-up to this race, he is saying that he's still learning the whole model of iRacing and also driving the Legends machines. Remember, these are cars from 1935 with Yamaha 1250cc engines in them, and it is the case that they are very sprightly despite having a quote-unquote low-power engine. The fact you've got a low weight means that you've got engine, but you've got a high level of torque, and that's what it's all about here, and a very open rear end on these cars. And Hey-Ho looking strong, and I do think he's going to be a little bit of a dark horse in this race. I think Hey-Ho could be in a very strong chance here of getting a good result, but we will wait to see what happens. As we say hello in the Twitch chat there to Martin at VXR. We hope you're doing well, Martin, and we are just waiting to count down now. 30 more seconds to go before we go racing for one last time. As we've also got here Kazaniga here making his way around the circuit, coming through the final corner here, and Kazaniga on his debut, he's had a little bit of a bumpy debut, particularly in race number 2, but I think there's a lot to learn from and a lot of positives to take away from tonight. He has been looking been relatively strong as the number 89 driver, but I do think there's a little bit of a cloud over his head with regards to the major incident at turn 6 on lap number 1 in race number 2. And we're still trying to ascertain how that exactly happened, but again, I'm grateful the stewards had to go through all the camera footage, not us. But we wait now as the time concludes to the practice session, and we now build up to the race as our grid will be formed very shortly, and McNeely, as I say, taking the fastest lap in this final practice session. So as the grid is about to form any moment now and we transition over, let's take a look at our top 12 here. And this is, of course, the full reverse grid for race number 3. Ollie Wayne taking pole position there for Buccaneer Autosport, and he will be joined on the front row by Blaze Crawford. Of course, Crawford having that disastrous race number 2 as well. Things are not working out for him, and alongside them, it will be Josh Pillane starts in P3 on the second row. Josh Brown, meanwhile, the two Joshes lined up on that second row. Josh Pillane, of course, being our highest placed pro driver for this one after a disastrous race at number 2, and Brown alongside in the Britain in the pro category. Tom Delaney and Mikey Dobble on the third row there. Dobble having a difficult one as well in race number 2, and he'll be looking to try and get into lead as quickly as possible. Kazaniga and Brady on that fourth row, and it's Adam Kovac and Paul Hayho starting that fifth row. And as I say, watch out for Hayho. I think he's going to be a driver who's going to come through very quickly if he nails that start, and it'll be William Fole and Dorey who start off further down as we get the lights, and we're going to go racing. And it's lights out and away we go for the final race for tonight as we see Wayne getting a very strong start, but Crawford immediately bogging down versus Pillane as they go charging down towards turn number 1 here. And as they do, coming up into the braking zone, I think it's going to be the case. There's going to be some dramatics into this braking zone, but Crawford holds on as we see a double dropping down a little bit, but he's into P4. In fact, he's gone up as there's been a lot of moves on the opening run into turn 1. And we see a bit further back, we've got Adam Kovac there, the orange and blue machine, making his way into turn 2. Here he finds himself on the outside of 2, on the inside to 3. It's all about trying to hold on here and not pick up any contact as they make their way through. The number 91 driver dropping down to what is P11 right now, losing 2 places at the start as they come charging through. And meanwhile up front we can see that Wayne starting to pull away with the top 4, and behind him it is Tom Delaney right now, who is under a bit of pressure here as they come through turn number 6, and no major dramatics this time, although I think Kovac has had a bit of an incident here. And in fact, what has happened to Kovac, he has gone very far off the circuit there at turn number 6. We'll find out a bit later, as meanwhile looking back up at your race leaders as it currently stands, as we do have some camera issues, we can see it's Ollie Wayne under a lot of pressure from Crawford as they come charging down towards turn number 9 for the first time basket. It's all building up behind, but as they come through 9 and head up in towards 10 right now, Crawford looking very strong as Wayne goes wide out of 9, and as a result Crawford's going to have the momentum here. I think it's going to be a formality rather than a major battle, but we'll wait and see what Wayne is able to do. We know he's very smart with his car placement as they come down towards turn number 1. So after one lap, it is Crawford leading ahead of Wayne, followed by Pillane, and then it is Dobble. Then in P5 it's Delaney, who is battling here with what is Foyle as they come into the braking zone, and it's Delaney who backs out of it here. Meanwhile, behind him, you've got Dorey in a side-by-side battle here with what is, I believe, hold on a second, we've had a driver disappear off our screens. We'll try and rectify what's happening shortly, but we can see that is the case, that Dorey has just got the position there, and Liam McNeely is trying to find his way through here, and McNeely on a charge right now after the opening lap up into P8. He's gained 11 places already, and behind them we can see we've got Guido Casaniga here in P9 battling here with McNeely, and I think he's going to have to tuck him behind. He's not going to be able to find a way through, as we see Douglas also trying to get into the mix here as they come through. But meanwhile we can see that there has been the instance where Pillane is up into P1, and what has happened to Crawford, who's dropped all the way down. Well, Dobble has just made the pass on Wayne as they come through turn number 7, and into 8 they go here in the number 88 machine, looking very strong this time round as Crawford down in P4, and he's definitely had a major incident. I'm not sure what's happened to Crawford. We will try and find out for you what happened to Blaze Crawford very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, but he has dropped down some and it has not worked out for him, as we are going to take a look back at what happened. So coming into turn 1, he turned into the corner and there was contact with the number 16 car, and that's what set it off here. And I think Crawford, by looks of things, has then been involved in a subsequent incident as they come up through turn number 2 here. He's tried to go all the way on the outside and just not had the grip and gone into the wall. So that's what's happened to Crawford and why he's dropped the places. There's some initial contact and then followed up by a mistake by trying to run it around the outside of turn at number 2. But I think the damage to the car prevented him from doing what he thought was possible. As we see behind there, you've got Jamie Dorey tucking in, and then we've got Wayne Douglas here in the number 66 car in P8 right now. As we see a car go charging off the circuit, that's Gordon Much, and he's going to come skidding back on, and there's a disaster contact with Chadwick there. Oh my goodness, and Chadwick is upside down. He'll need to get it out of that car because that car is right in the middle of the road, but I think he's had a jump to the pit, so Chadwick into the pit. But that was absolutely horrific as we take a look back at what happened there. So in the run-up here to what was turn number 2, you can see that Much just carries so much momentum and gets it wrong in the rear end. I think there may have been a little bit of contact with the number 36 car there, but if it was infinitesimal, and almost both drivers up on their sides there, or up on their roofs. But right now, our race leader, you're looking at Poulain here as he's under attack from Double as they come charging through, and it's going to be a battle for the win all the way round. And right now, as Poulain and Double both come through turn number 10 and head around to go on to another lap, but you can see Poulain defending intensively on the inside, almost up against the pit wall there, and almost cutting off the front of Double's car. And I think Double will be fuming at that move as they make their way up in towards turn number 1 right now. But Poulain's dictating the defensive line. He's going to go for it as we see Double over the back of him, and we've got Wayne and Foyle chasing after right now. Of course, Wayne and Foyle in the Pro class, the leaders in the Pro class, as they all come up towards turn at number 2. And behind you can see that Dorey there falling behind Crawford. Crawford going on the offensive once again after that incident earlier on. And whilst he's in a wounded car here, he's definitely showing why he deserves the Legends title as he makes his way out of turn 3. And it is the case that Crawford really on a mission right now to try and get back into that top 5 as they come down the hill here and head towards turns 5 and 6. Very shortly going into that braking zone for the hairpin. And it is the case that right now I think it's one of those Dorey situations where he just cannot find his way through, but he's got a lot of pace to do so. As we look a bit further down the order, in fact we look back up and we can see McNeely here versus Foyle in the battle for P4, and McNeely gets it done on the inside. A simple pass versus Foyle on the inside into turn 7, and Foyle finds no way back through 8 or in the run to 9. And I say that, he is looking quite close here. Will he be able to find it? I don't think so this time around. I think he's going to have to wait for another opportunity before he goes hunting once again here. As we look a little bit further down the order, and we can see here we've got Guido Casaniga in that P9 position right now, trying to chase after the rest of the top 10 who are all the way up front. As we see here, it is Poulain going defensive once again as they come charging down towards turn number 2. And you can see Poulain weaving on the straight as well, trying to cut any momentum from Double. As meanwhile, Dorey in the battle here with Crawford. They're going to turn 1. Both drivers give one another great racing respect, and they're still side by side coming out of 1 as they make their way around up the hill towards 2 here. And you can see that it is now Dorey on the inside versus Crawford, and Crawford backing out at 9. That he's tried to go around the outside of 2 before and hasn't worked out. And Crawford versus Douglas here as they come through 3. Crawford's got the inside, Douglas has got the wider line, but as they make their way down the hill of 4 into 5, it's the case that Crawford tucks back in for now. I think recognising the fact that there's better fish to fry later on in the race. They've still got 8.5 minutes to go here, and there's definitely plenty more opportunities to go for a move. There's no need to battle too much, as meanwhile our race leaders change. It's Double versus Poulain as they come charging down towards turn number 7 here, and Poulain goes to the cutback, and there's contact between the pair of them, and it is the case that Poulain's into the wall there. And we're going to take a look back at how that all started off. So as they're making their way into turn 6, and what you're going to see from Double as we go on the roll bar here, he gets up the inside on the corner exit. And as we look back to the exterior cameras here, we'll take a look from what was at the time Poulain's car, and as they make their way into the corner, you can see just how the fact as they came through, Poulain just so tight on the side of Double there, and the contact was inevitably going to happen. And now they go racing once again, but Double really up into the lead, and McNeely now in that P2 position, but he's under pressure from Foyle and Wayne, and where it's the case that Foyle there you just saw managed to get ahead into P3, but Ollie Wayne waiting I think for the opportunity to come back. We've still got half the race distance to go in terms of time. There's plenty of opportunities here. Again, much like the first 2 races, we've definitely seen some very crunch moments, some very important moments in the race, and none more so than the contact between Double and Poulain going into turn 8, which has decided where Poulain's going to be for the rest of this race at the moment, we believe. But we see Dorey right now under increasing pressure from what is there. That looks to be Douglas, and Dorey's gone very deep as Douglas is getting the position, and Crawford comes through. But it's the case as Dorey rejoins that Crawford has to lift out, and I think there was a little bit of door-to-door contact as they make their way down towards turn number 7 here, and it is the case Crawford's machine and Dorey's machine have both been in the wars today as they make their way through turn number 8. Once again, you can see Dorey looking for the move versus Douglas here as they come charging out of turn number 8 and head up in towards 9. They're side by side in turn 9, but Dorey's not close enough to get fully alongside, and as a result, it's the case that Douglas takes the standard racing line, but he will be a little bit vulnerable because he didn't have the opening apex in towards turn number 9. That's cost him some momentum, and you can see how Dorey is capitalising already. He's getting closer and closer and closer, and as he looks at a move here, we can see that Douglas goes to the inside. He goes defensive here as they make their way into the braking zone for turn number 1, and as they come heavy on the brakes, you can see that Dorey is trying to go all the way around the houses. As a bit further back, you can see Guido Casaniga here. He's got Horn behind him, and he's got Pulane ahead of him. He's trying to find a way through right now, as Dorey is still trying to chase after what is Douglas here, but he can't find a way through. But looking at our battle for P8 here, you can see Casaniga trying to find a way in, but I think he's just got to wait for the time right now and not go for it too soon. He's just got to be patient. As we see here, Dorey continuing to press on versus Douglas. Once again, these two nose to tail for a significant period of time as they come charging down into turn number 6 for the 7th time of asking. And behind them, you can see Crawford just falling back a little bit, but he's got enough of space versus Pulane right now. I think he feels safe, and he's just waiting for the drivers ahead to have an incident, and he will take the opportunity. As they go up into turn number 7 here, it is the case that the number 16 driver of Pulane will have one eye behind him and one eye ahead of him here. He's got to be very careful as they make their way out of turn number 8. But further down the order, a very eventful start for Adam Kovac, the American driver, in P13 right now. And a bit of a no man's land, really. And we have had a significant number of times. We have had, as you can see there, ladies and gentlemen, 6 retirements, plus also the loss of Robert Lundgren going into races 2 and 3. So we are down to a field of what is 15 drivers right now, unless Chadwick and also Emson can get their cars out their pits. But we can see that Dobble right now under a lot of pressure from what is here McNeely as they come through turn number 1 once again. And Dobble really feeling. Hold on a second, is that somebody spun there on what is the apex? That's Waned. What has happened to Ollie Waned? So this was only moments ago, and he was doing very well as the number 86 car, and he's just lost the rear end on the apex of turn 1 and had to clear the car off the corner there. So just a mistake from Wayne, and he's dropped all the way down to P12 from what was at the time a battle for a top 5 position, and now he has fallen down the order like a stone. He's got to try and recover. The first driver he's got to get past is Much, who's going to be a very difficult driver to pass because he's got the fastest pace here. As they both make their way into turn at number 6. You see the number 48 driver there locking up under braking that front left tyre, really having to work hard in those front left brakes, taking a battery. But meanwhile, a little bit further up, we can see Guido Casaniga here holding on is the Italian, the number 89 car on his debut, of course, doing everything he can to try and hold on to that P8 and chase down Pulane, who's in P7. But we will wait to see how these guys play out right now. They're all nose to tail here, and I think we've now entered that stage where the drivers are waiting for that opportunity on the last couple laps. We've got 4 minutes to go here, and we're not seeing major moves, but I think we're going to start seeing one from Lee Horn very shortly. I think he's been waiting for this. But meanwhile, up front, ladies and gentlemen, the battle continues to the race lead. It's Dobble versus McNeely here. McNeely once again trying to go all the way around. Dobble defending that inside line and keeping it clean. Meanwhile, Lee Horn, he's on the inside here versus Casaniga, and as they make their way through turn number 1, you can see that it's Horn holding that inside, but he's not able to get the run out the corner. He's lost a little bit of momentum in the run up towards 2 here, and Casaniga holds on for now. The Italian being able to place that car and get on the throttle so well as they come into the braking zone for turn 3, but he's gone deep, and Horn looks to the move here, but he's not close enough to capitalise from the Italian's mistake as the Briton as they come out of 3 and head down the hill towards 6. Meanwhile, up front, we can see that Dobble right now under huge pressure from what is, as we look back from what is Dobble's car, under huge pressure from McNeely as they come charging up towards turns 7 and 8 here, and McNeely looking for a waiver, and there's a bit of contact on the rear end, and that was a bit too close for comfort there, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you with a nervous disposition, we instead roll on to the roll bar camera perspective of McNeely as he chases after Dobble here in what is only approximately 2 laps remaining. Perhaps they can get one more in. I think it's only going to be 2 more laps, and you can see both drivers on the absolute ragged edge of the limits here as they make their way out of turn at number 10. And now McNeely, we know every time they come onto this start-finish straight, as much as past Ollie Wayne for P11 right now, we know that Dobble, as soon as he starts to feel threatened, he pulls to the right side. Will McNeely try to go late here, or will he wait until the final lap? that, or will he look for an alternative attacking position as they come into turn 1? No such attempt this time, not close enough here as they come through, but we look back to the exterior cameras right now and we can see it's Foyle in P3 and a comfortable P3 holding on for the time being, as Jamie Dorey in P5 would love to get past Douglas and then go after Foyle for that P3 finish. As behind them you can see it's Lee Horn once again versus Casaniga here, and this time he's fully alongside the Italian as they come through too, and Horn is up into what is P8 right now and fourth in class as they make their way through turn number 3 for one more time. As they come out the corner here, you can see that he has got the move done and it is a very smooth pass as we take a look back at the move for what was P8. So much like the previous couple laps, he tried on the inside, but this time he was much closer along the inside. And in fact, he was ahead on the apex of the corner, and that gave him the confidence to straighten the steering a little bit earlier there, and he could get on the power. And as he had the inside run into turn 2, it was only going to go one way, and Horn took the position. I believe he's also just taking the position around the outside here of Poulain as we come back to live pictures, and you can see he has definitely gone for the move here, and Poulain has lost a position here as they make their way through. And meanwhile, there has been a change for the lead, ladies and gentlemen, as they go on to the final lap. McNeely has passed Double. Let's take a look back at how that happened. So it was in the drag race here out of what was turn number 6 down into turn number 7 and 8 here, and that's where he got it done. As they're now on to that final lap, the white flag is out. We can see that right now it's McNeely leading as they make their way in towards turn number 1, and no change at the moment. Meanwhile for Foyle in P3, he's safe and sound, but it's Douglas under pressure here from Jamie Dorey as they come into turn number 1 for the final time, and as they make their way through the corner, no moves at the rear of your picture right now. Everybody keeping it in formation and waiting for another opportunity, as we see here that Casaniga has dropped the position to, well, he's got ahead of what, well, he's dropped the position to Poulain, and we can see now it's Peters who's trying to find a way through. Peters goes very deep into turn 3 and has to collect the car very rapidly. But meanwhile, your race leaders, there's contact into turn 6. McNeely and double tap in the back of McNeely as they make their way out of the corner here and go charging up towards what is turn number 7. And as they come into the braking zone here, McNeely goes defensive immediately into the chicane. He parks it right in the centre of the road and says to Double, if you want it, you're going to have to find a very inventive way to take it. I'm not going to let you get any speed through the chicane. And you can see McNeely trying to hold on here. Look how tight a defensive line he's holding into turn 9, and he's going to lose so much speed here. It's going to be a drag race out the final corner. Will it be McNeely or Double to take the win overall and the win in the pro class in race number 3? They come out the final corner and it's a race to the finish line, but I think McNeely has it as they come down. Who will it be? It is going to be McNeely who takes the win over Double, and William Foyle wins in the Pro-Am category in P3, Douglas in P4, Dorey in P5, Crawford in P6, Lee Horn in the end comes home in P7, a brilliant drive by Horn, and it's Poulain in P8, Casaniga in P9, and then we've got Ollie Peters in P10, and then Gordon Much in the end, P11. A very difficult race for the very strong British driver. P11 goes to Ollie Wayne, P13 to Bobby Thompson here as he comes out the final corner. Again, the Barracuda Motorsport drivers having a very, very challenging race number 3. It didn't work out for them today, but still very strong results in both races 1 and 2 for them. And then it's going to be Adam Kovac who soldiers on to P14 in the end, and then last but not least, as he makes his way round, and we haven't really seen too much of him over the course of the races tonight, but here he comes. It's the number 15 car of Josh Brown making his way out the final corner, and the Pro-Am driver will be happy with this P15. He'll be the last driver to finish on circuit, but still to have soldiered through race number 3 and come home is an achievement in of itself as he comes across the finish line. 15 drivers making it to the end here, and we have the retirements of Chadwick, Brady, Hayho, Emson, Delaney and Salas, and also the retirement of Robert Lundgren, who was not able to take part in races 2 or 3 due to technical issues with the car. But a brilliant race there, ladies and gentlemen, and that brings to a conclusion the fantastic racing from what was round number 4 tonight. So thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We will not be conducting post-race interviews tonight. That's all for our racing action and conversation with our drivers. But thank you very much for tuning in to this round of the iRacing Legends Cup Season 2. And if you want to know more about this series or other racing series or just the Next Gen racing community in general, why not check us out at the Next Gen Racing website. That is nextgenracing.co.uk. Alternatively, you can look us up on our Facebook group. That is facebook.com/groups facebook.com/NextGen Racing. But otherwise, I've been your host, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And next week, we will, I believe, be returning to the lovely voice of Alex Everett, who'll be taking us back underway with commentating once again. And next time out, ladies and gentlemen, we will be heading from what was the Dutch circuit of Zandvoort to the Japanese circuit of Tsukuba for what will be a feisty and very, very challenging round for all of our drivers. That will be round number 5, 3 more races in a week's time on Monday, the 30th of August, 2021. But until then, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.